In the world of tech giants, some names just feel permanent, unshakable. And for years in Chinese e-commerce, that name was Alibaba. I mean, they were the undisputed king. But then, a little 5-year-old startup did the impossible. And this is the story of how they pulled it off. So that's the big question we're digging into, right? It's a total David versus Goliath story, but for the digital age. How in the world did this upstart Pinduoduo not just survive, but actually manage to topple a titan that everyone thought was completely invincible? And believe me, this wasn't just some fancy metaphor. By the end of 2020, the numbers were in, and they were staggering. Pinduoduo had actually surpassed Alibaba in annual active users. It wasn't just a threat anymore. It had become the most used e-commerce platform in China. The question is, how? Okay, so to really get how big of a deal this was, we first have to understand the battlefield. The Chinese e-commerce market back in 2015 wasn't just competitive. Most people thought it was completely locked down, sealed shut. At the time, you had these two absolute giants. Alibaba's platforms, Taobao and Tmall, they were like a giant treasure hunt with endless variety. And then you had JD.com, the champion of speedy logistics and quality you could trust. The market just seemed totally saturated. It wasn't just a competitive red ocean. Analysts literally called it a dead sea, where no new life could possibly survive. Or so everyone thought. Pinduoduo's first stroke of genius was looking where nobody else was. They didn't even try to fight Alibaba and JD for the same customers in the big cities. Instead, they went out and found an entirely new ocean of them. And this chart really reframes the entire market. For years, all these tech companies were chasing the same 400 million consumers in China's major cities. Pinduoduo did the exact opposite. They focused on what's called the sinking market. That's 1 billion people, 1 billion people, in smaller cities and rural areas who had been almost completely ignored by the whole e-commerce boom. Now, the prevailing belief, what everyone just assumed, was simple. These 1 billion consumers didn't have enough money to be a real market. It was seen as too spread out, too low income, just too costly to serve. But Pinduoduo, they bet that this conventional wisdom was just flat out wrong. And this is where it gets really interesting. This was their key insight. While, yeah, there was an income gap for younger people, the data showed something startling. For the middle-aged demographic, the income levels in this so-called sinking market were actually surprisingly close to their big city counterparts. They had disposable income, but they had almost no places to spend it online. Boom. Pinduoduo had just found its perfect customer. Okay, so finding the market, that was one thing. But activating it, that was a totally different challenge. Pinduoduo couldn't afford a massive advertising budget. So instead, they built this brilliant system where their own customers became their marketing team. They did this through a model called social commerce. Now, it's not just about shopping online. It's about shopping together. This tapped right into the tight-knit community feel of all these smaller towns and villages. The core idea is super simple. The more people you bring in to buy something, the cheaper it gets for every single person. So here's how that viral loop actually works. Let's say you find something you want, a pair of wireless earbuds. You can buy them by yourself at the normal price, or you can start a group buy. To get a massive discount, you just share a special link with your friends and family on WeChat. Once enough people join your group within a certain time, bam, the deal is on, and all of you get that rock bottom price. And get this, the person who starts the group often gets an even bigger discount, sometimes even getting the item for free. And as the founder, Huang Zhang, put it, the timing was just perfect. This whole model wouldn't have worked 5 years earlier. By the time Pinduoduo launched, smartphone use in this sinking market was really high, and WeChat was already the main way people communicated. They basically built their entire system on top of a social network that was already a massive part of people's everyday lives. All right, this all leads to the one question everybody asks about Pinduoduo. How on earth are the prices so low? We're not talking about a small discount here. The prices can seem just impossibly cheap. I mean, just take a look at these real examples. Wireless earbuds for about $3, 2 pairs of shoes for less than $1, an electric shaver for around $5. The prices seem like they defy all logic, but there's a really clever economic model making it all possible. It all comes down to 3 main pillars. First, they connect you, the shopper, directly to the factory, cutting out all those expensive middlemen. Second, like we just saw, they have almost no advertising budget because their users do all the marketing for them. And third, and this is the real game changer, the whole group buying model creates super predictable demand. Think about it. A factory knows it needs to produce exactly 1,000 units of an item, not just guess. This just slashes waste, eliminates inventory costs, and makes the entire production process way more efficient. So, of course, when you make waves this big, people are going to notice. Pinduoduo's explosive growth sent absolute shockwaves through the industry, and the biggest giant of them all, Alibaba, was forced to wake up and react. Fast. You have to understand, for years, Alibaba set the rules of the game. Now, all of a sudden, they were losing users left and right to a competitor they had probably just dismissed at first. This wasn't just about losing some market share. It was a threat to their entire identity as the leader of Chinese e-commerce. They had to fight back. And this timeline just shows how dramatic their response was. After Pinduoduo's user numbers went through the roof, Alibaba rushed out its own competitor, Taobao's Special Edition. But when even that wasn't enough, they did something that was truly unthinkable. In 2021, Alibaba applied to put their app on WeChat, the platform owned by their biggest rival, Tencent. That was a massive white flag and a clear sign of just how much Pinduoduo had completely changed the game. So when you boil it all down, the real genius of Pinduoduo was creating this single, elegant solution to two massive problems at the same time. They gave 1 billion overlooked consumers access to affordable goods, and they gave thousands of small, overlooked manufacturers a direct line to a huge national market. Each side empowered the other, creating this powerful, self-reinforcing economic engine. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating final thought. Pinduoduo's story is this powerful reminder that the biggest opportunities often lie in the exact places everyone else has decided to ignore. It really makes you wonder, who's out there right now building the next Pinduoduo by looking at the next billion-person market that's just hiding in plain sight?